All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you all for taking the time to chat with me today. And the whole idea of these CEO chats is to give you a little bit of context as to how ActiveDEMAND can be used. So not just the how, but more of sort of strategy, that type of stuff. So it's a bit of an informal process. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Today's topic is account-based marketing, and with this topic, I actually brought Adriel along. I don't know if you know the story of Adriel. Adriel was he led one of the larger agencies in Edmonton, Top Draw, and I think that the topic today is actually very relevant for agencies on the line as well as people that aren't agencies. So Adriel's going to bring in an agency perspective on a lot of the bullet points and ideas here today. So really today's topic, like I said, is account-based marketing, and I think it's something that we've been doing for a very long time, and I know we've been doing it for a very long time, and it's paid very great dividends for the strategy compared to some of our other marketing strategies, and ActiveDEMAND is set up very nicely for doing some of the account-based marketing activities. So really today I'm going to sort of introduce the concepts of account-based marketing, and again I know there's lots of different ways to slice this, but I'm going to give you my take on it, and I'll talk about some of the process, working through the steps, that type of stuff, and the benefits of account-based marketing. So what is account-based marketing? And I think that a lot of sales folks on the line, they know account selling, they know their key accounts. It's a case they have a strategy of building up their key accounts. It's more of a farmer strategy, a little bit more of a farmer strategy than a hunting strategy, but I think that with account-based marketing, we can add the hunter aspect to it. So really, what is it? It's the concept of a targeted marketing effort that focuses on a narrow set of, or a defined set of companies. So the idea being, we know which companies we want. Instead of fishing with nets and just hoping somebody comes along, we actually target specific companies. And the account-based marketing is typically, when it's most successful actually, when it is married with account-based selling. So why do we do it? And typically, the base case is, trying to extend the relationship with our existing accounts, so cross-sell, upsell, etc. And but I think from the marketing perspective, on the prospecting side of things, is that it is a great strategy for helping marketing and sales align. So that they can spend time on those companies or target set of companies that your company is uniquely positioned to help. And I think it's a case that it really helps if you've got this issue where marketing and sales are not on the same page. I think doing an account-based marketing strategy is a fantastic way to get people together. And Adriel, maybe you would just want to give a comment on what is it from an agency's perspective, and what is this as a tool for agencies?
I mean, so we've seen some companies start to move to account-based marketing when their traditional marketing isn't getting the results that they're expecting. That's one avenue we've seen. And then the other thing that we've seen at ActiveDEMAND is a lot of new companies or startups default to this. So they don't do the traditional, let's go set up a Facebook campaign and a Google Ads campaign, and let's do some print advertising and some other brand awareness advertising. Some of these companies are defaulting to an account-based marketing, account-based selling strategy right from the get-go. So they figure out which companies they need to target, they start calling them up, and it's a very grassroots. Marketing and sales is a huge gray area kind of thing with a lot of these companies, and it's working for a lot of these companies really well.
So as an agency, it's a case that if you're engaging with a new company or something like that, instead of you trying to sell a strategy, typically they're already doing it, and you're coming in to help them accelerate it. Is that a fair assessment?
Exactly, and accelerate on the creative and really up their game on what they're able to do.
Fantastic. So really, I think a lot of folks, well, I know a lot of folks know about traditional inbound marketing, and I just want to sort of compare the results of these two, the concepts between account-based marketing and traditional inbound. So with account-based marketing, we know what the game is, right? We know the segment, we know the companies, we control the direction, we know what the prospects look like, so to speak. And if we're doing it right, sales and marketing are aligned right at the get-go. They're talking, they know what they've defined a scoreboard, they've defined the game, and they've defined the players. And there's lots of very good data available for the sales and marketing teams to actually succeed in this approach. It's less fishing with nets, more sort of strategic targeting. Whereas with traditional, we're fishing with nets, and we're just sort of, it doesn't really, maybe it's spray and pray, but it's we're doing broad strokes marketing, broad strokes advertising. We're trying to collect people through the process, and really marketing is generating these leads, passing them off to sales. And I think the downside of the traditional inbound is that you get what you get, right? It's the case that you spend a bunch of money on paid advertisements, or you do the content, or whatever your strategy is, and you can't really control who's actually going to consume or respond to the marketing activities. And quite often, marketing has a goal to achieve, and they have to deliver leads to sales. So, maybe once in a while, marketing is going to try to gussy up a lead that isn't something that sales are typically consuming. This whole lipstick on a pig. Once in a while, we do. The benefit is that we do uncover new diamonds. In other words, gee, I never knew this product, our product and service, would actually help this type of company. But there is some downside, and I think that. Really, account-based marketing, it's strategic. Sales and marketing are aligned, and they're singing from the same song sheet, so to speak. Whereas with the traditional, it's really reactive, right? We can do strategy, but the reality is the response, because we can't control with great accuracy exactly what the personas are that we're targeting. We can assume we are, but you know what? It's a lot of our digital marketing is going to be consumed by people all over the place. So it's more reactive and less strategic, in my opinion. So at the small scale, I think that everybody has some experience with account-based marketing, right? It's maybe it's a case a salesperson will say, you know what, I have these 10 accounts that I'm doing great with, and I need to expand my reach into them. I have maybe a bit of risk with my key player or my main contact at this account. So I'm trying to expand what I'm doing with this account, and maybe I go into the CRM as a salesperson, pull a list of people, and then I reach out to the marketing team and say, hey, I'd like to set out a nice little campaign, announcing that we have this new special or a new take on one of our new feature or something like that, and try to get some engagement with my accounts. And if marketing is playing nice and there's a bit of cooperation, it's a case they will go out and build this little campaign for the sales guy. And then the salesperson follows up and calls the prospects afterward. So this is something, it's small scale. I think it's a case we've all had experience doing something like this already. And as an agency, I'm sure that this process is, you've stumbled across it as well. Now, at the large scale, there's a couple of advantages. One is that, number one, is you got a fantastic tool set for executing large scale campaigns with ActiveDEMAND. And it's really about using bigger steps. And now with the bigger steps and the higher volume of communications, statistics become relevant, right? We have better measurement, and the stats are real, right? So it isn't that you have better measurement, it's actually the measurement is more descriptive of actual patterns as opposed to one-offs. And again, we can use ActiveDEMAND to scale a recipe or a a pattern or blueprint for a strategy that works, like account-based marketing. So where do we start? And I think there's really two paths here. One is a story with regards to if you're doing marketing in-house for your company, and then the other story is, I think, how an agency would engage. And really, I think this is it says investigation, but I'd relabel this title as more of conversation, right? And what I mean by that is it's getting the sales folks and the marketing folks in a room and start talking. Because both sales and marketing, and from my perspective, I'm talking about if you're marketing for your company, is as marketers, walk into the room, get salespeople into the room, and you've got both have targets, right? It's a case that, if you don't have targets, I think that's a great time to talk about targets and putting some measurement, I should say, some goals in place. And then take a look at the data, start discussing as a team strategically how you guys can be working together, and definitely bringing in the topic of which accounts and how we can leverage account-based marketing as a strategy. And Adriel, from your perspective, with your experience bringing account-based marketing to other companies as an agency, do you have any comments on that and help the agencies on the phone here?
Yeah, I think the one key thing in here is bringing sales in, because typically marketing agencies are working with the marketing group at the company that they're working with. But the problem is sometimes their marketing and sales aren't aligned. Their marketing might be delivering the definition of a good quality lead that is a year old, and now sales knows that that lead isn't quite the best, or maybe there's a new hotness in type of company that they need to work with, and just bringing them into that conversation at the same time really changes what you're trying to do and what the target is. You do need to be careful to avoid jumping down a rabbit hole of redefining everything, because I don't think that's super valuable for a lot of companies. I think most companies have a good idea of the type of customer that they need to talk to, but it does help with adding color and adding some pragmatism, I guess, because salespeople are all about hitting their sales targets. They don't particularly care how, and I think that brings a nice pragmatic edge to the conversation.
And definitely on the agency side of things is that if you are talking to sales and you have a great relationship with sales, the stickiness of the account is increased considerably. I know when we were an agency, if we had sales alignment and we had sales on the line, and we had a great relationship with sales, let me tell you, they saw the benefit of engaging with us as an agency. So once you've got the people in the room, I think, and you've got a bit of alignment, and you've got some personal relationships, and you're actually working as a team, and realize that you guys are both in the same, have the same goals, which is accelerating growth. It's a case that I think the first step in this process, once the sales are in the room, is say, you know, what to sales, what are let's get this dream list. What are the companies that you would just love to be doing business with? Which accounts would it be, if you were to define them, would make you, just hit your sales numbers, right? Instead of the onesie twosie 2-cent stuff. Let's look at more of a bigger game here. Which are the accounts that you think that we should be doing business with? And of course, sales are dreamers. They're people that are very highly motivated to close business, so they'll very happily bring out this list of clients, or clients or prospects or what have you. Then I think as marketers, I think the next step here is to actually narrow it down, right? And why I say narrow it down, because a couple of things is that there might be suggestions of accounts that, sure, it'd be nice to be doing business with them, but we just don't have a competitive offering, and we've never done business with these accounts. right? So I would say number one is narrow it to one vertical, right? Because for account-based marketing strategy, just from efficiencies and trying to get a story that works quickly with marketing and sales, is instead of playing all the way across the board and boiling the ocean, pick one account or one vertical rather, with the accounts in that vertical. So again, we're narrowing down the list of companies that we're going to target. And then the next piece about narrowing is which of these companies in this list are ones that, were slam dunk accounts, so to speak, ones that we've done business with and, we absolutely nailed it. Why did they choose us and nobody else? And if the answer is, well, our CEO's daughter is married to their CEO's son, well, that's not scalable unless the CEO is going to start having a lot of kids. So really, it's got to be you're uniquely positioned to attack this specific, in the cases with the slam dunk accounts, these were accounts where your offering was uniquely positioned to win the business. And if you understand why you are uniquely positioned and what the value offer is, you'll be better positioned to really make the story resonate with the target accounts. And then we go through the process of expanding the list. Now we've got the target narrowed. Now we need to expand, get like accounts, other accounts that we didn't think about, do some brainstorming. And really what we're trying to do is some matching about what other companies match this profile that are still, very nice accounts that align with the story. Adriel, do you have anything else to add on this from the agency insights?
Yeah, I mean, this could be a very short exercise, or it could be a more in-depth exercise. It really depends on what kind of accounts you're targeting and what kind of information or research you need to do into it. It might be as simple as finding like a top 50 companies in a geographic area. Or it might be as in-depth as using a database software or something to find the information on these accounts and figure out which ones you need to be working with. But yeah, definitely got to find the ones that are ideally suited for you and the ones where you can win with them. Yeah, has to be realistic.
Yes, and then start building the process. Once you've narrowed it down, start building the process like Adriel was hinting at, of pulling in some the contact databases. There's lots of places to get the contacts. There's lots, like we've used Hunter and the like, and there's lots of these companies that do data aggregation on these target accounts. So then really I just want to talk a little bit about the engagement, and really the engagement with these accounts. We have to realize that this is digital marketing, and we just got to reiterate here is that every single step we take when we're engaging with prospects in the marketing process, we have to be increasing trust, right? And to accelerate the buyer journeys, it starts with thinking about building this trust with these target accounts. We need to be able to communicate that we are uniquely positioned. We understand the pain that our clients our target accounts are facing, and then using well-targeted messaging and personalized engagement. So it's a case that there's a lot of touch points, whether it's account-based marketing or any other type of marketing. And I think it's a case, I just want to make the case again for personalizing the engagement. Because if you can personalize the engagement, especially with account-based marketing, we know these companies, right? We should be able to make it very easy it should be very easy for us to get the messaging right for these target accounts, and hence the personalization. And I think part of this is a data problem, right? And we need to have a really solid data strategy to really make account-based marketing work. So I think that in this next step, it's not only do we get our target contacts, we need to get the data clean, right? And there's some real basic stuff. Make sure you have the company logos, you have their category absolutely nailed, their revenue side, the problems that are unique to them. So you can't be pitching pitching a value offer to company A to company B rather, that doesn't align very good with the one that you've constructed for your account-based marketing in company A. So the point is, you've got to make sure that you have a nice, clean set of data. You have enriched the data around these companies, maybe titles of the people you're engaging with, and make sure that you have a very specific product or service that you're going to engage on this process with these accounts. And really, the cleaner your data on this and the more targeted your messaging is, the more success you're going to have. And I think that if we look at all the data sources within your company, it's the case if we think about it as a funnel, our target accounts that we built out during this process are up at the top of the funnel. There's a lot of people that we're already engaged with, or maybe it's a case our accounts we have some history with. And then there's these companies that we have opportunities with, and then there's the cross-sell, upsell, et cetera. And if we think about this from a data perspective, is the target accounts, a lot of our data is going to be speculative. Right? So let's get it right. Let's work hard to make sure that the data we're getting is as accurate as possible, because there is going to be some inference here. So the types of data that we are going to have for this is definitely ActiveDEMAND, the marketing automation system, your CRM, maybe there's some slide decks from pitches you've done before, maybe some research that if you've paid consultants, this type of stuff. But the reality is this data is speculative. So it's you have to be very careful on how you apply it to your account-based marketing strategy. And then the engaged prospects, these are people that we've actually engaged with in some of our previous marketing activities or sales engagement, this type of stuff. And now we actually have some nice data, right? The data here is a little bit more real, because it is data that the prospects have done something. Right? So we can infer a little bit more accurately, because we're looking at data that people have actually left behind when they've engaged with us. So definitely in ActiveDEMAND, maybe they've visited web pages, maybe they've engaged with some of our marketing activities, maybe they've downloaded white papers. They've given us some stories about what is important to them. And again, some of this other data might be in the social platforms, the ad platforms, this type of stuff. And then really the real data, which is factual, where we have salespeople talking to prospects. This is absolutely fantastic data, right? Because we should have this very clean data based on people talking to people. And again, this is typically sourced in the CRM, or if you're doing call tracking or you're doing chats or any of this type of stuff. But again, this data is really spend a bit of time and look at this data when you're putting together your account-based strategy. And then make sure that there is a nice flow of the investigation up, so that you're correcting your inference data and correcting your speculative data, looking at the actual data that you have in the marketing automation and CRM systems. Now, really, here's where we've done our work, and now we're going to start synchronizing. This is what sales are going to be doing. This is what marketing is going to be doing, and we got to make sure that it is a dance. We know what steps marketing are going to be taking, and what we're going to feed sales as information as part of this process, and what the expectation is for sales to do with this information, and make sure that if they, at the end of the day, it is a strategy, and sometimes the prospect is just going to come in and say, I want to buy, and they're talking to sales. We have to close the loop and make sure that our systems as well as our people are talking to each other. And if you've heard me speak before, you've most likely seen this slide, and really it's just talking about the relationship of the sales and marketing systems. So ActiveDEMAND, first of all, if we see our sales funnel, we have our marketing funnel. ActiveDEMAND is the tool set used by us marketers for applying pressure to a population of people to create our sales-ready leads. And ideally, it is the system of record. If we've been doing this right, this is where the master data source is for all of the prospects that we have not who have not engaged, are not ready for sales engagement. So during our account-based marketing strategy, you might be tempted to just start stuffing all of this data into your CRM for these new target accounts. Well, I say no, keep it in active demand and wait for the prospects to respond to the marketing activities. And if they respond to the marketing activities, they'll cross this boundary, and then we pass it off to sales. And then if we've set up our systems correctly, sales are engaging directly with the prospects, getting our real data, and that data is reflecting back into the marketing automation system. So it's a case that if we narrow it down to like our marketing automation system and our sales CRM, I think with this strategy, the lead opportunity boundary is a nice place to have this crossing, so we can define what is our market qualified or sales ready lead, so to speak. And then we pass it up to the sales organization. And then, of course, back to our previous steps when we're synchronizing our steps, that we know what sales responsibility is once we pass it off to the sales organization. And step 4, now this is where if we've got our data strategy, we've got our main software systems talking to each other. Now here's where we start working out the steps, right? As we define our buyer personas within these target accounts, think about which channels we're going to use to target these specific buyer personas. And there are some, always on stuff like custom audiences with ad roll and custom audiences, as you know, with Facebook. So it's a case we can do some of these strategies where we start pushing out content to the people at the very top of the funnel. And back to, I mentioned it about aligning our steps, is that realize that, the prospects, we can have this whole game plan of, they're going to go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, is you got to realize that they might come in automatically in stage 4, right? And be prepared for it. Right? So I think when we're defining the stages of the process or the stages of the buyer journey, I think it's a case that the strategy I've always taken here is, instead of just defining what our actions are, is define the stages based on prospect activities. So instead of saying, well, we're going to send this email and then sales are going to do something, is like, no, let's the boundary is the prospect will click the link, or maybe they're not just going to click the link, they're going to go download the white paper or visit the page. So each boundary, in my opinion, should be defined by what a prospect is doing as opposed to what we are doing. And then really any of the strategies and each of the steps should be really focused on really getting the prospects to move, right? And if it's a case that the prospect does come in a left field and just does what we wanted them to do in one of the further stages, we are set up strategically to handle it. And then I think it's important as well to, and this is basics of marketing, is engage emotionally, right? Is what's in it for me. Think about the prospects we're engaging with, but also think about it emotionally as far as how we're engaging. Adriel, do you have any insights that you want to share on this?
Yeah, I mean, so like this, when you're getting to building out the stuff here, this is actually like such a good place to be. I'm sure many of the marketers that are on the webinar today here have been in the situation where they're dealing with a customer and they say, okay, who are we selling to? And they say, well, everyone. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't help. Like there's only so far you can go with marketing to everyone. But when you get to slice and dice things so specifically, you get down to a user persona, which, by the way, if your customer doesn't have, you should do that for them at a fee. And you build a user journey, which, hey, same thing applies there. We need to build that out for the customer. So we have a very specific vertical, a buyer persona, a user journey with stages. Now we're creating creative that applies to that user in that stage, and we get to apply it in a very personalized manner using both marketing and sales departments together to work on it. I think it's a much happier place for a marketer to be when they're dealing with that kind of messaging, because it's so specific and they can kind of rely on that data to be good, rely on that customer to be the customer that you say that they're going to be, and be a lot more specific and a lot more effective. This makes for much more effective marketing, because we're not just blasting out super generic messaging that could apply to everyone. We're hitting very specific accounts with very specific messaging that is going to be a lot more effective. And that's more interesting for a lot more marketers out there to be doing.
Yes, and now the next phase here is really use ActiveDEMAND to do your analysis and visualize what's going on. Right, as you know, we've introduced a new Kanban and funnel dashboard widgets that allows you to slice and dice your database based on a single option pick lists, etc. So it'll actually allow you a better visual, you're able to more effectively visualize the process, right? It's not the same, it's a little bit better from an analysis perspective, being able to see people at the very top of the marketing funnel, as well as throughout the sales funnel, as opposed to just the narrow, you know, these are the stages within the CRM. So really check out the journeys, see how people are engaging with these journeys, and do some optimization and learn from this process. Right? It's a case that you can define the stages and then visualize them on your dashboards, and it's a great communication tool when you get into the room with the salespeople to say, okay, maybe it's you're pulsing every once a week on this initiative. You can bring up on the dashboard and show how this process is going and how many people are moving through this process, etc. Adriel, do you have any other insights on this?
Yeah, you might even be able to pull out a couple of real examples. And when you're talking about the touch points that you're going to be building, you could talk about them in reference to those examples. So you could say, hey, you know, when they're in this stage, we're going to hit them with this content, just like we did with Karen from Acme, and that caused her to do this thing over here. It kind of adds some pragmatism and realism to the whole process when you're able to throw in people's names and use those real user journeys when you're building your theoretical one out, when you're building out your strategy and your user journey. It's nice to point to some real examples in the past.
And then again, back to what I was saying earlier about personalization is that I think one of the strengths of ActiveDEMAND, one of the strengths of ActiveDEMAND is our contextual content system and our dynamic audiences with linkages to Facebook and AdRoll and this type of stuff. But really, now is really where this contextual content shines. Right? Because, you know, like I said, there's multiple touch points, but at the end of the day, the website is a big part of this. And if you bring these people to the website, let's make sure that the experience is really, really focused using the dynamic content. And if we can shorten the journey where possible using the dynamic content, I think it's fantastic. Everybody wins, because if we think about what's in it for me with the prospect in mind, is that their time is limited, and if you can get to the point quickly with dynamic content, they're definitely a lot happier. And then make sure that with the dynamic content, if somebody engages with a website and then they leave and maybe come back later because of one of your other touch points, or maybe they were just thinking about you, that they're not they're not starting at square one again. Right? The content is related to where they were in the buyer journey or the buying process the last time they visited you. Right? So the journey is shorter as opposed to longer because they come back to your website and start thinking about you at a later date. So now step 5, and this is where I think really what we should do is, instead of just grabbing all this content and all this database full of people and just flipping the switch and saying go, I think it's a good strategy to start with just a small pilot project, a smaller team, you know, and just a really small set of accounts, do a bit of testing, see what the product, because you're dealing with actual people, the prospects here, actual people. And if you start small, you get a little bit of data, and it helps with the confidence level of the strategy across the team. Because if it's a case you say, you know what, we're going to target Acme and we're going to do X, Y, Z, and we're going to do this company here. Let's just see what it looks like. Oh wow, did you see that? They engaged with this. They visualized that actual pitch, and then they went and clicked on that type of story. I know we've had that story here at ActiveDEMAND in our marketing and sales strategy pulse meetings, and it's exciting. you know, and it really helps with the alignment. And then once you've got some lessons learned and you see some results and people are excited about it, two things. One is you definitely scale it out to a bigger audience and a bigger group of people. And on the agency side is, you know, you can actually potentially get buy-in for higher budgets to scale this out to a bigger audience. Adriel, do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, that last bit that you mentioned there, just the budget, like if you were to take a $30,000 or $50,000 spend and blow it all in the first go, and then find out, whoops, actually our order was a little bit misaligned and we should have done this instead of that. Saying that to a customer after you've spent all their money is the best place to be. It's nice to start with a smaller one, see how it's going, and then say, okay, we just need to make a tweak here and here, and now we're ready for the full buy. And I think that has some power to it. It has some confidence building that goes along with the client because they get to see how it's going at a small level and feel confident that that the money's going to be well spent. Yeah, just adds to the confidence level that's going to work, and the risk avoidance if you're looking for that as well.
Yeah, and then now once you started scaling this out, you know, you now start having a higher volume of people prospects moving through the process. So now you can actually do some testing, right? Because now we're getting real stats. We don't have one person. That defined it. You can actually have a higher volume of people going through the process. And it's a case you can measure and make small tweaks to the process to see what the impact is. Right, and during this whole process, of course, it's not a static process. You continually need to be feeding the top of the funnel, right? So it's a case, you know, whether it's finding more contacts in the accounts you've built, or finding more like accounts rather. But it's, again, you're trying to sustain this process, right? It's now you've got the systems in place. Let's start feeding and throwing some wood on the fire, so to speak, and letting getting a bit of velocity through the process. And it's a case that we can rerun it maybe for, like I said, if you have other accounts that are like accounts, you can rerun them through the top of the funnel. And if you're an agency or franchise, consider this as building a blueprint or a set of or recipes that you can reuse across multiple franchise locations. Or if you're an agency, finding other clients that can benefit from this same process. And again, now that once we start getting some success with this, back if you remember the beginning of this conversation, as I said, narrow the list to a specific vertical. If your business serves more verticals, start again at the top of the process while this automation's running, and starting again with a new vertical. Right at the beginning, first steps, go through the entire process again, but with vertical number 2 that your business is targeting. Adriel, any additional comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of structure for something like this, this last one, analyze and optimize, this best fits like a monthly amount of work that you're putting in. All the other stuff previously, that's best done as a project, because you're going to need to, there's phases to it. There's a definite start and end if you're ending at this phase here. This phase, analyze and optimize, you could do as a monthly thing with your clients, where you're either hitting new verticals, adding new people in, or even creating new sequences to hit verticals that you've already hit in the past. So this amounts to monthly work that you can do with clients afterwards, or in-house if you're marketing in-house.
Yes. So I'm just going to give you a quick example, and if you've seen some of my other discussions, you might have seen this example before, and it's kind of interesting because it's targeting Adriel in his previous role in his previous company, but now he's working with us as an executive. So it's kind of a nice throwback to when I was presenting this when he was a client of mine, as opposed to one of our senior management. So, definitely one of our verticals that we're very focused on is helping. Like there's several verticals we focus on, but I think one of the ones that the one I'm using here in this example is marketing agencies. So for us, we go to get our sales and marketing in the room and start talking about accounts that we would like to target. And we look at about the ones, same story as which ones we've been slam dunks in. What is the description of an agency that looks like that, and why did we win? And it's a case that again, we went through the same process. We got all these companies, upload them ActiveDEMAND, pulled their domains, did data enrichment, pull in the logos, went and looked at their tech stacks, found the contacts in the accounts, and we do contact acquisition through paid advertisements, targeting, also things like ad roll, matched audiences, this type of stuff to start showing up all of a sudden everywhere for these people. And then once we get this data in ActiveDEMAND, as you're seeing here, the employees, then we can start doing some of our other outreach strategies. And definitely a big part of it is, we're dogfooding our solution with our dynamic content. So with our website, we're using dynamic content, and it's a case that the different types of dynamic content we have, clearly the inline dynamic content for the hero banners, we have the subscriber bars, the push down bars, the tool tips, we have the targeted audiences, like I said, in ad roll as well as Facebook, and and also with pop-ups. And we don't use them as much as I think other folks do, but we have all of these tools, and we're leveraging them in this account-based marketing strategy. So if we look at, for example, the website, we have the targeted agency account logos, and we're brash. We actually do use the person's name. This may not be something that you want to do. We're selling personalization, so we're going to be brash about it. But definitely, if you can target the company's logo and the pitch aligned to that vertical that you're targeting, like for us with marketing agencies, we're going to be saying the pitch is going to be about what we do for a marketing agency in this account-based marketing strategy. And then it's a case that really we're going to be pitching, if Adriel, for example, at Top Draw was somebody that we were targeting and they don't have an account yet, clearly the stage in the buyer journey is that we want Adriel to try out this free agency portal. And then, of course, we're going to inject his logo into the report, his domain onto the report, and you see the pitch is about what we're doing for agencies, etc. And then, of course, we're looking at the behavioral data to optimize our process. We're going to try to get people to targeted landing pages that are uniquely positioned to help this agency drive their business, or actually engage with our marketing initiative. And again, back to this process, we're trying to get, in this case, Adriel to sign up for a free account. And of course, we're retargeting Adriel in this case with matched audiences. Now, if we go back here, again about the stages of the buyer journey, is if we do get Adriel to actually take a step, or even if he takes the next step, and the step is we want you to sign up for a trial. Now, if he takes this step, whether it's because of our marketing effort or if he's just been, and I know Eric, one of our other marketing, Eric who's on the phone here today, keeps talking about the Costanza, the Seinfeld episode where he just keeps saying Costanza, and then pretty soon it's in their mind. So let's say Adriel just comes in off the street and starts, I'm thinking about this ActiveDEMAND for some reason, and signs up for a trial. Well, then automatically the dynamic content is going to target him in the next stage of the buyer journey. And now everything is about booking a demo. Again, back to my defining the stages based on prospect activities. The prospect activity we were measuring on was, did he sign up for a trial? The next prospect activity in the next stage is, did he book a demo? So really, if sales gets on the phone with Adriel, the sales piece would, okay, the salesperson's going to talk to Adriel and say, hey, Adriel, you should really book a demo. right? And of course do investigation, et cetera. But the sales alignment is the salespeople's, their job isn't to go to Adriel and say, hey, please buy. It's, hey, I see you signed up for a trial. Just want to learn a little bit more about you, get some real data in the conversation. And the goal of the call is to get Adriel to book a demo. So really, the website's going to change, and it's going to be talking about booking a demo. The pop-ups and testimonials are going to be talking about, hey, you should go book a demo. And of course, the advertising is going to be targeting Adriel to go book a demo. And really, the results, like we've measured it ourselves. Like I say, we dog food our own solution, and definitely 200% conversion rate lift for when we introduced the concept of account-based marketing with dynamic content. We definitely see a lot deeper page depth on the site visits, engagement on session length. So these are stats that are actually very, you know, it's hard to talk to the executive team or the sales team about marketing stats like this, but internally, you know, as marketers, these are actually very good indicators that the process is working, right? And we definitely measured it, and it definitely is working for us. So yeah, best practices here. I think that keep it simple. You know, keep again, try to keep the tools narrowed down. We've got a full stack with ActiveDEMAND and your CRM, and try to leverage the behavioral data. Definitely use contextual content. Use the tools you have today, and try to bring an emotional aspect to it. I mentioned that earlier in the presentation. And really, and this is true for all marketing, including account-based marketing, is you have to think about the prospect, right? What's in it for me? You have to be delivering value to these targets, right? These people are not going to engage with your emails, are not going to click on your ads, are not going to engage with the website if you're not telling a story that resonates with the prospect. Any other comments you want to make here in closing, Adriel?
Yeah, just on your previous slides there, one of the things that happens when you talk with clients is, or in internal stakeholders, you ask them, okay, what do you want people to do? And it might start as a small list, but they start adding stuff to it all the time. They're like, well, we want them to contact us, and we want them to get a trial, and we want them to book a demo, and we want them to do this and that. And sometimes what that ends up doing is making a website from hell that has way too many CTAs on it, way too much content on it, too much navigation options. It makes it a mess. And by using that dynamic personalization, changing it based on the prospect, based on what we know about them, you really get a more compact, smarter website that delivers the right kind of thing at the right time. And I think that's really nice from a development perspective, because you're not stuck trying to shoehorn in an enormous navigation, and you're not trying to design a page that has 3 or 4 calls to action. It's much nicer having fewer numbers of call to action and just changing it out based on what you know about the prospect.
Yeah. Okay, and that's pretty much it. And again, hopefully we've used your time wisely here in bringing in some concepts of account-based marketing and how it's benefited us, and hopefully you've been able to see have some plans, or so I should say some blueprints and paths to try out with your company, or if you're an agency, some concepts where you can, I think adding this as one of your products or offerings as an agency is a great sell, because like Adriel said at the beginning, a lot of startup companies, especially SaaS vendors, this type of stuff, they know which companies they've had early success with, and they're trying to do something similar to this anyways. So it's a case, yeah. Now I'll pass it back to Eric Costanza and get him to help us with any questions.